It was a bright, calm afternoon in Oakside Ridge, a quiet little town just outside Los Angeles. The sun warmed the streets, children laughed in the distance, and everything felt safe. But that peace was not going to last. Not for one girl, not for the town, and not for the man who made the biggest mistake of his life that day. Her name was Liana Seagal. She was only 21, but she carried herself like someone older, someone calm and strong. She had long, dark hair tied back in a ponytail, wore a simple, gray hoodie, and had a black sports bag over her shoulder. Liana had just finished her martial arts class at the local dojo, something she had trained in since she was a child. But not many people knew who she really was. She liked it that way. She didn't brag. She didn't flash her name. Most people didn't realize that her father was the world-famous action star, Steven Seagal. Liana didn't live like a celebrity's daughter. She lived quietly. She had no bodyguards, no designer clothes, and no fancy attention. She was just a girl who liked peace, training, and spending time with her father when he was home. Steven Seagal, even in his older age, still moved like a storm waiting to rise. But to her, he was just Dad. That day, Liana had parked her black SUV at the edge of a small strip mall. She had gone inside to grab a smoothie after her training, smiling politely to the man behind the counter and quietly waiting her turn. She said, "Please," and "Thank you." She never caused trouble, but as she walked back to her car, the trouble came to her, and it came in a uniform. A police cruiser rolled slowly into the lot and stopped behind her SUV. Officer Dean Marlowe stepped out. He was in his late 40s, broad, heavy, and known around town for being a little too aggressive. He didn't smile. He didn't ask questions kindly. He saw Liana, a young girl in sweats, walking alone toward a fancy black SUV, and something in him just decided she looked suspicious. "Hey!" he shouted, walking fast toward her. Liana stopped. She turned around, a bit surprised, but stayed calm. "Yes, officer?" "You heading to that car?" he asked, pointing to her SUV. "Yes," she answered. "It's mine. You got proof of that?" His voice was sharp now. "I do," she said gently, reaching slowly into her pocket. "I can show you my ID. Keep your hands where I can see them," he snapped. She froze. Her heartbeat picked up. "Okay, I'm just trying to—" "Hands on the hood," he barked. Liana was confused. "Sir, I think this is a misunderstanding. Now," he shouted. Before she could explain anything, Officer Marlowe grabbed her by the arm and shoved her hard against the hood of her own vehicle. Her cheek hit the metal. Her wrist twisted. Pain shot through her arm. "Ow! You're hurting me," she cried. "You're resisting arrest," he yelled. "No, I'm not," she said, trying to stay calm even though her eyes were tearing up. More people started to notice. A couple sitting outside a nearby cafe turned their heads. One man pulled out his phone and began recording. Liana's lip was bleeding now, and Marlowe had his knee pressed into her back. She gasped for breath. She tried to stay still, just like her father taught her. Do not fight when peace is still possible. Inside that cafe, a man saw what was happening and stepped closer to the window. He squinted. There was something familiar about the girl's posture, the way she moved, even in pain. Then it clicked. He had seen Steven Seagal once, years ago, at a martial arts workshop. He remembered that same calm breathing, that same silent strength. The man pulled out his phone. He didn't call 911, he called Steven Seagal. And just a few blocks away, Steven was parking his matte black SUV near the strip mall. He had come to surprise Liana after her class, maybe take her for lunch, maybe sit and talk like they often did. He didn't expect a phone call. He didn't expect a warning. But when he saw the missed call and then the text that followed, his whole body turned still. "Your daughter is in trouble, come now. The cop is hurting her." Steven stepped out of his vehicle and walked fast toward the plaza. His face was still. His heart was racing. And with each step, a storm began to build behind his calm eyes. Because this wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. This was personal. Steven Seagal stepped out of his SUV like a shadow cutting through light. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He simply moved with quiet power. People turned to look. Some recognized him. Others just felt something shift in the air, like something serious was about to happen. Across the lot, his daughter was still pinned against the hood of her own car. Her face was bruised. Her wrist was bent in the wrong direction. She was silent, breathing through pain. But inside, she was burning. Not with anger, with shame, with hurt, with fear. Officer Dean Marlowe still had his knee in her back, looking proud like he had caught a criminal. He didn't know he had just put hands on the wrong girl. He didn't know who was walking toward him now. Steven's eyes locked on Liana. For a moment, he stopped breathing. His daughter, his only child, hurt, pinned, humiliated. He felt something deep inside him, something he had trained his whole life to control. Rage. But he didn't let it take over. Not yet. He walked closer. "Let her go," Steven said, voice low and calm like a whisper before thunder. Officer Marlowe looked up, annoyed. "Back off, sir. This is official police work." Steven took another step forward. "She's my daughter." Marlowe laughed. "I don't care who she is." She resisted. Steven didn't flinch. "She didn't resist. You did." Now people were recording from every corner of the lot. Dozens of phones were pointed at the scene. A few had already gone live on social media. Steven didn't care about the cameras. He only cared about the girl who was now slowly sliding down the hood of her car, barely standing. "She needs medical help," Steven said firmly. "She needs to learn respect," Marlowe replied coldly. Steven's jaw tightened. His hands stayed at his sides, but his shoulders were firm, his stance wide, like a tree that couldn't be moved. "You don't teach respect with pain," he said. "You teach it with example." "I said back off," Marlowe shouted, reaching toward his belt, hand hovering over his taser. That was when another police car screeched into the lot. Chief Elena Voss stepped out fast, already yelling, "Dean, step away from her!" Marlowe froze. "Now," she repeated. "Let her go." "But Chief, I said now." Marlowe pulled his knee off Liana and stepped back. She crumbled for a second, then caught herself. Steven rushed forward and caught her gently. She leaned into him, her breath shaking. "It's okay," he whispered to her. "I've got you now." Elena Voss looked between Steven and Marlowe, realizing what had happened. Her face turned pale. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Steven, I didn't know." Steven looked up at her. "You didn't know because you—" "Stop looking." Elena nodded slowly. She turned to Marlowe. "Give me your badge." "What?" He blinked. "Your badge, Dean. Now." "This is a mistake. She didn't even have ID." "I saw everything," Elena said sharply, and so did the whole world. Reluctantly, Marlowe took off his badge and handed it over. Then Elena reached out again. "Your gun, too." Steven held Liana close, watching every second. Her lip was bleeding, her eyes were swollen. But she stood tall now, her back straight. "You're suspended," Elena told Marlowe. "Pending full investigation." Steven stepped forward. "There's nothing to investigate," he said, voice calm. "You have all the proof you need." He turned slightly to the crowd, still recording. "You all saw it. A girl, respectful, calm, got hurt because a man thought his badge made him powerful. But that's not power." He looked down at Liana. "This is." She looked up at him, her face still strong even through the pain. "I'm okay, Dad," she said softly. He shook his head gently. "No, you're hurt. And I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Chief Elena Voss looked ashamed. "We'll issue an apology. We'll begin review." Steven pulled a card from his jacket and handed it to her. "Call that number, it's my lawyer. We're filing a civil rights lawsuit. Not just for my daughter, for every kid who got hurt and silenced." Elena took the card, her hand trembling. Steven turned to the crowd again. "This isn't about being famous. This is about being a father, and I promise you, I will not stay silent. He helped Liana into his SUV. The crowd clapped quietly, not like fans but like witnesses who had just seen something real. As Steven drove away, people kept recording. Phones buzzed. Hashtags began to spread, but none of that mattered to him. His daughter was safe for now, but the fight had just begun. The video of Officer Dean Marlowe slamming Liana Seagal onto the hood of her own car spread like wildfire. It was all over the internet within hours. News channels picked it up, talk shows debated it, and hashtags filled social media. But behind the noise, something deeper was happening. A storm was building. Not just in Oakside Ridge, but across the country. Steven Seagal didn't hide. He didn't go on TV or give long interviews. He gave only one short statement through his lawyer. This isn't just about my daughter. It's about every daughter who didn't have someone waiting in the parking lot. That sentence hit people hard, because many had been in Liana's place, scared, alone, and hurt, with no one coming to help. But this time, someone had come, and that someone was Steven Seagal. 2 days after the attack, Seagal's legal team filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. It named not only Officer Marlowe, but also the Oakside Ridge Police Department, the city government, and even the local police union. But that was just the beginning. Steven did something no one expected. He opened the lawsuit to the public. He asked for anyone who had been mistreated by Officer Marlowe, or any officer in Oakside Ridge, to come forward. And they did. 3 teenagers, 2 shopkeepers, an elderly man with a walking cane, all had stories of being hurt or threatened. Some had complained before, all had been ignored. But now, with Seagal behind them, they felt brave enough to speak. The town changed. People who had stayed silent started to talk. Protest signs appeared. News vans parked outside City Hall. And every step of the way, Steven stayed calm, focused, and strong. He spent every morning at Liana's side. She wore a wrist brace now and walked slowly, but she held her head high. She wasn't hiding either. "This time I'm not staying quiet," she said during a town hall meeting. "He thought I was alone. But I'm not. And I never was." People clapped. Some cried. Others stood in silence, listening closely. Steven stood up beside her. "I taught my daughter how to defend herself," he said. "But this isn't about fists or kicks. This is about truth, about standing up when the system falls down." That weekend, something powerful happened. Steven hosted a public town gathering at the Oakside Ridge Community Center. No bodyguards, no media team, just people. Over 500 came. Victims, families, students, retired officers, even some cops off duty. Steven stood on a simple wooden stage and looked out over the room. "You can't change everything in one day," he said, "but you can burn down the rotten part and build something better." Then he introduced the Seagal Empowerment Program, a free, fully funded service for the town. It would offer legal support for victims of police abuse, free trauma counseling, martial arts self-defense classes for teens and single mothers, and most important, training for police on how to treat people with respect and control. People stood and clapped. Some shouted, "Thank you." Others simply nodded with tears in their eyes. Steven wasn't doing this to be a hero. He was doing it because he couldn't forget the moment he saw his daughter's blood on her face. That image would never leave him, and he didn't want anyone else to live through it. Meanwhile, Officer Dean Marlowe was no longer a proud figure. His face was now on TV, not as a protector, but as a warning. His name was trending, not with praise, but with shame. He was suspended under investigation, and soon arrested on charges of assault, abuse of power, and civil rights violation. The city tried to apologize. The mayor called it a terrible incident. The police chief held another press conference. "We failed Liana Seagal, and we failed this town." But words were not enough anymore. People wanted change. And now, they had someone leading it, not with loud words, but with real actions. Steven and Liana kept moving forward, day by day. Quiet but unstoppable, At night they sat on the roof of their home, talking softly. Sometimes they just sat in silence, watching the stars. "I'm proud of you," Steven said one night. "I'm proud of us," Liana replied. The town had changed. The system had been shaken. But something bigger was still coming. Something that would take everything they had left. Because the courtroom was next. And this time, Liana would have the final word. ChatGPT said, the courtroom was full. Every seat was taken. Reporters filled the back rows and cameras waited outside like hungry eyes. Some people had been following the case since the first video. Others had come because they wanted justice, not just for Liana Seagal, but for every person who had been hurt and ignored. At the center of it all stood Liana. She wore a simple black dress. Her wrist was still wrapped in a soft brace, but her back was straight and her chin was high. She wasn't scared anymore. She had been through the worst, and now she was ready to speak. Across the room sat Officer Dean Marlowe. No badge, no gun, just a gray suit and tired eyes. He had no one sitting beside him except his lawyer. His face was pale. His hands stayed folded. He didn't look powerful anymore. He looked small. The judge called the room to order. Silence fell. Then Liana took the stand. She looked out at the jury. 12 faces. 12 people who would decide the truth. "I want to tell you what happened that day," she began. "I had just finished my martial arts class. I was happy, tired. I walked out to get a smoothie, and then I went to my car." Her voice stayed steady. "I wasn't loud. I wasn't rude. I was just walking." But Officer Marlowe didn't see a calm young woman. He saw something else, something dangerous. He stopped me. I answered him politely. I tried to show my ID, but he grabbed me before I could. He slammed me onto the hood of my car. He twisted my wrist. He made me bleed. She paused, and for a second, the room didn't breathe. "I wasn't resisting," she said softly. "I was scared. I was hurt. And I kept thinking, what if no one comes? What if no one believes me?" Her voice cracked just a little. But someone did come. My father. She looked at Steven Seagal sitting in the front row. He nodded once, proud but quiet. He showed up. He helped me stand. And he made the world see what happened. But this trial, this story, is not just about me. It's about everyone who didn't have a father walking up at the right time. Everyone who got hurt and couldn't prove it. Everyone who was told to stay silent. She looked back at the jury. "This time I'm speaking. For them." The room stayed silent even after she finished. No clapping. No sound. Just quiet respect. Then Steven stood. He spoke to the judge, the jury, the whole room. "My daughter trained for years to avoid violence. She knows control. She knows peace. But that day, peace didn't protect her. She was hurt by someone who thought power meant hurting the weak." He looked directly at Marlowe. "Being a police officer is not about control. It's about service. You serve people, you protect them, you don't break them." He turned back to the jury. "I didn't come here today as a movie star. I came here as a father. And I'm telling you now, and if this system doesn't change, this will happen again. Maybe next time someone's daughter won't get back up." He sat down. When the jury left to decide, the room stayed still. No one moved much, no one even whispered. They had seen enough, heard enough. Hours passed. Then the jury came back. The foreman stood. The judge asked, "Have you reached a verdict?" "We have." "What is your decision?" "Guilty," the foreman said. "Guilty of assault. Guilty of abuse of authority. Guilty of violating civil rights." Gasps filled the courtroom. Some people cried. Steven closed his eyes. Liana held his hand tight. The judge gave the sentence. 12 years in prison, no parole. Officer Marlowe didn't speak as they took him away. He didn't even look back. His power was gone. His silence was all he had left. Weeks later, a new day came to Oakside Ridge. The town gathered again, not in a courtroom but at a newly built place. The Seagal Community Empowerment Center opened its doors. Liana stood at the front, cutting the ribbon. Her smile was small but strong. Inside, rooms were filled with books, training mats, legal help desks, and warm lighting. Teens practiced self-defense moves in one corner. Mothers filled out forms for support. A wall showed photos of victims who had come forward, all brave, all honored. Steven watched from the side. He didn't need to speak. He had already said everything with action. That evening, he and Liana sat on the rooftop just like they used to. "You okay?" he asked. "I am now," she replied. And together, they watched the stars return to a town that finally found its voice.